Hi, I am Alfonso Muchacho, and today I'm going to walk you through my latest track, A Lifetime, and this is what it sounds like. So one of the reasons why I picked this track is because the other track on the EP that's out at the same time is quite different. It's called Go It Alone, and it's very complicated. Whereas this one, as you can see here, we haven't got many. What are we on, about 30 different channels? So there's not a lot going on. I have a tendency to make very complex tracks, and with this one I was trying to make a track that was simple and had bigger sounds. So rather than layering lots of little sounds and making a real complex melody, I just went for big bold sounds, a bit like myself. So I'll just run through a few of the elements in the track. The kick drum, I've got to be honest, it's not very exciting. It's one of my own. I probably used it a million times. All I've done is put a bit of EQ on it, just changes the character slightly. Just takes out some of that clickiness, which I don't like. I like my kicks to look like a smile, so a big dip in the middle. The bass line is, well, it's three different elements. I'll play you the three of them now. So the first one is you can see it's not very complicated at all. It's very melodic, but not complicated. And you can see I've EQ'd off a lot of the low end, so it really sits in the upper ranges of the bass line. The next one we have is it's nothing very exciting. It's just the initialized patch in Zebra. So I haven't really even done anything, just altered the filter cutoff. The more melodic one, the diva one, is just a square wave. It's one square. I haven't layered them. One square. I've done a little bit of work on the envelopes here. Filter cutoff. That's about it. There's not a whole lot going on. It's just a very standard mono square wave filtered. That's all. And then the third part of the bass line is even less exciting, and that's just a tom. Woo! Together, it all sounds like this. Processing wise, each element, I haven't done anything to the tom. Each element usually has EQ and then a bit of compression just to level it all out. And then I usually go quite heavy with the compression and limiting on my bass lines, especially when I'm using more than one element to try and make them sound more cohesive. I'm trying not to use the word glue here, but trying to make them more cohesive, not glued, more cohesive. So slight boost around 100, not a lot doing there. I've used the glue for cohesion, and that's not doing a whole lot either. The ratio is well down, so it's doing very little. The API 2500 with my special Muchacho bass preset. As you can see, taking off at the most 2 dB. And then I've used the L2, which I like to really level out all the different elements. So I like my bass lines to feel like they're all one sound. So even though they're made up of 3 different sounds, I like them to hit equally. So a lot of limiting is usually the best way to achieve that. When I say a lot, I've gone for -3 at the most. And with the kick drum, it kind of works well together. But really, in terms of effects and processing, that's it. I've got a little bit of a sidechain action going on here. Just it's more for the really subby bass, the zebra bass here, just to make sure it's not clashing with the kick. But that's all I've done. And there's a little bit of automation. I open up the filter on the zebra bass. Sounds pretty good. But apart from that, that's the whole bass line. Keep things simple. In terms of the melodies, this is where it gets a little bit more interesting. I'll play the percussion group first because we'll get that out of the way. And one of the reasons why I chose this song as opposed to any of my others is this is one of these rare tracks where I've used near enough everything has been created in the box. So I haven't used any hardware synths. I think a few of my percussion sounds, a few of the hi-hats, loops, I might have made externally on a drum machine, but it's hard to remember where they all come from. And I make a lot of loops and then save them, so I have my own kind of sample libraries. But I'll give you an overview of what it all sounds like. So this is the busiest part of the track. Pretty simple. There's a lot going on, but it's all subtly layered, so it's not, no one thing is jumping out, so I try and make it all sound like it's one loop as opposed to a load of different sounds and loops all stacked on top of each other, which it kind of is. So I'll just play each individual part. So the wide perk is just the Batu kit, whatever that is, built into Live. And all I've done here is I've EQ'd the right and left side completely differently. I haven't EQ'd the left side at all. I've only EQ'd the right, and it kind of gives a little bit more width to the sound. Bit of compression and then some side chaining. The open hats are probably even less interesting. It's a 909. What more do you want? We'll take off my effect rack here. Bit of EQ, bit of compression. The thing about a 909 is you can't really mess it up. It always sounds good. So, bit of random percussion, as the title says there, just a few wood blocks just to make it more, I don't know, woody. So I've stacked 3 different loops here, and as you can see, what I've done is I've done a bit of aggressive EQing on all of them. That one's I've done a bit of a left-right, slightly different EQ settings, and I've added a bit of the Valhalla room here, which is, what's it doing? Let's have a look. Just giving a bit of a reverb tail. I'll play the 3 sounds together. So what I would have done there is I would have got 2 or 3 different loops and then cut them up, taken individual parts out, rearrange them, and then squash them all back into my own kind of loop. So when I'm using other people's loops and sample packs and stuff like that, I always try to make them my own. So I'm not just dragging and dropping a loop in. I might use one for a bit of inspiration at the beginning and then add my own sounds on top, or I might use one and just grab the clap out of it and rearrange the hi-hat and put it into a different order so it doesn't sound like a loop that I've just got from a sample pack. But I do like to use loops from sample packs and then add them all together into a beautiful arrangement. Then in terms of processing, bit of processing here. I use the SSL channel from Waves, my own special setting, as you can see, Muchacho perk for percussion. Not a lot going on here. I've just done a very little bit of EQing here, rolling off the lowest of the low end, about 150 hertz. Not even sure if this is compressing. No, it's not. It's just doing a bit of EQ. So I've used the glue, And then I use the wonderful CLA 76, which has my own preset again. It's not doing a whole lot. Notice the glue's not doing a whole lot either. I use FabFilter Saturn. I've just recently started using it. I've had it for absolutely ages and never used it. I was always using different things. And I've recently got into it and I like it. I don't use any of the presets. I just literally start with the default setting and just turn the drive up, and I think it sounds really good. Just gives a bit more sizzle to the high end. And then the L3 to level things out. Again, that's not doing a lot. All these little bits of compression all add up, so at the end, when I get to the mastering stage, I don't have to do a lot of compression, a lot of limiting, because I've already done a lot of the transients and the peaks have been tamed during the mixing process. So let's get on to the more interesting stuff now, the melodies. So I'll just go through it one by one. So this is from Diva, as you can see, and it's a square. And as you can see, what I've done is I've used the exact same preset that I've used for the bass line. It's just I've EQ'd off the really, really low end and then I've added on a bit of Valhalla delay, which I used a preset. And this is what it sounds like. What I like about BBD means Bucket Brigade delay, and it's a really noisy, grungy, lo-fi delay, and it really gives a lovely character to this this sound. Without it, it's lifeless. Yeah, I really like that. And then the main focal point, I guess, of the track is this huge pad sound, which is from the Korg M1. And the M1 was used heavily back in the 80s. It kind of rivals the DX7 in terms of popularity. And what I like about it is every classic hardcore house record you've ever listened to probably has a piano sample or some sort of sample from the Korg M1. So all the sounds in it are great. I don't create anything in there, I just use the standard presets and then tweak them slightly, but it's got a massive sound. So here are the chords. It's not very complicated. As you can see, I've played them in by hand because all the timings are way off, but it gives a bit more of a organic feel, shall we say. In terms of the processing on here, a little bit of EQ, bit of compression, my fab filter again, and then my favorite saturation, I guess, plugin is the black box. This thing is utterly fantastic. It's very easy to go too far with. I'll show you what it's like on, and I've only got it on about 50% applied to the signal, but this is the difference when it's on or off. So I've dialed it quite down, but you can go absolutely ridiculous with it. Let me put it up to 100%. I haven't even turned the saturation on. Listen to the saturation. Obviously, I'm getting a bit too excited there, but a little bit of subtle black box action really adds in some high end. I think it's quite nice. Then I've gone for a bit of the Ozone. I'm using a retro Ozone 5, simply because I think it looks better than Ozone 9. And all I've done here is just widened the mid and upper frequencies, but not by a lot. And then some effect racks for when things get more interesting later on. Here we have the DX7 from Arturia. Not very exciting. And then another M1. One pan to the left, one pan to the right. Gives a sense of urgency. And then we have the acid line, and this is quite good. It's not really very acidy. All it is it's basically a saw wave with the resonance turned all the way up. I've used an arpeggiator just to create a bit of a melody, and you'll notice that looks very similar to something we saw earlier, doesn't it? It's the same as the bass line. So I've copied and pasted the bass line, put an arp over it, and called it acid. The one surefire way to make sure a melody fits with all the other melodies in a track is just to copy it. And that's what I did. Bit of ambience. Bit of random note action. That's from, what did I use there? Pigments. I used the Valhalla Shimmer on this, which is absolutely fantastic. Creates massive ambient soundscapes. It's a really good plugin, well worth buying. And down here, now we're getting to some just some more rhythmic sounds. Very simple. It's just a saw. Use the arpeggiator to generate the rhythm. As you can see, I've got the glide turned up a bit, so gives a nice glidey sound. And then other than that, we haven't got a lot else. I used analog, the built-in instrument. Bit of noise. Reverb, delay, kind of creates a crash, but I've got a very quiet saw buried underneath it, so it's slightly more melodic, but it's mainly there as an effect. And then the vocals, it's just a sample, and then I used Waves Tune followed by a bit of echo, reverb. Really wanted to create a big space, and I think it works. And then I did a classic reverse the vocal and a reverb trick. It's great for introducing vocals. And then pretty much that's it. We've got a bit of white noise. You know what that sounds like. I've EQ'd it to kind of be in the key of the track. And then this noise from Absinthe, I don't even know what it is. Probably a preset. It's called Dark Background, if anyone wants to copy it. And all together, it kind of sounds a bit like this. In terms of extra processing, all of my melodies are grouped together and then I run it through the SSL channel as with the percussion. Again, a slight bit of EQ, it's so subtle, I'd rather get the sounds right rather than EQ it at this stage. And then I layer a bit of the compression, but we're not doing a lot. Bit of stereo widening, it probably doesn't need it. Adds a little bit extra to the pads, but that's it. Got the black box on again, a bit more aggressive this time. Really hear the air that it gives to all the pads and melodies. It's wonderful. And then a bit of limiting. If any at all. In terms of the send and returns, I've got a Valhalla Room. I've used it on the reverse vocal and a bit on one of the melodies, but nothing exciting. I've got a chorus set up, but I haven't used it, and a delay, which is on a couple of things, the reverse vocal and one of the loops. And that's it for effects. So like I said, it's a very, very basic track that I was trying to fill with big noises. The bass line is big, the pad sound is big, we've got this urgent knocking noise that's big, the percussion's kind of a bit more subdued in the background. So I'm quite pleased with it. It's a big sounding progressive house track. If you like it, hit the link down below. You can stream it or buy it from everywhere. Have a great day.